It's hot, I'm sweaty, I'm outside, I'm trying to record a video and the neighbor's cockerel is being a dick, and that makes it the perfect time to talk about resentment. We all know what resentment is, and everyone's felt it at some time in their lives. It's when you're unhappy about a situation in your life, maybe you think it's unfair, and you feel extremely bitter and destructive about it. Maybe you think your girlfriend's being a bitch. Maybe you don't think you're paid enough for the job that you do. Maybe you're an incel black pillar and you've decided that women are evil because they don't want to have sex with you. If you're watching this video, I bet you feel resentment about something right now. And if you don't fix it soon, it's slowly going to destroy you. Okay, the first part to fixing resentment is understanding where it comes from. Immediately, I want you to start by taking responsibility. If you're in a situation that makes you resentful, it's probably your fault. And to explain this, we're going to look at relationships. People can easily resent their romantic partners. And if we're being honest, resentment is probably the cause of most hurt and breakups. Maybe you're unhappy that your wife or girlfriend doesn't have sex with you as much as you would like. Maybe there's a thing she always does that really winds you up and you don't understand why she doesn't stop. Well, here's a hard pill to swallow. If people treat you a way that you dislike, it's because you let them. Humans have an instinct to always try and manipulate situations just a little bit to make it better for them. If an opportunity arises where you can exploit a situation to benefit you, you probably will. And this is why in any sort of relationship between two people, if one person doesn't stand up for their feelings and wants and needs, and the other one does, then things are going to shift. If you're unhappy about something, then you need to express it. If you don't like the way someone treats you, then you have to assert it to them. They can't read your mind, they're not going to. It's your responsibility. But a lot of people are terrified of doing this because they fear conflict. Fucking massive hornet there. Now, you might be scared of conflict because of the way you were raised. But you also might be scared of conflict because when you try and assert yourself to people, you do it the wrong way, which does result in conflict. So, I'm now going to give you an exercise that I use to make sure that I assert myself to people in a productive and healthy way. Here's what I want you to do. Write a long and detailed letter to the person you feel resentment towards, saying everything you feel and would want to say with zero filter. Zero worry about how correct or accurate or polite you're being. You're not going to show this to anyone. The aim is to get down as much anger and negative feeling as you possibly can. Now, once you've done that, leave it to sit for a few days, maybe even a week. And once you've given it some time, read through it again. First, read it once all the way through, and then I want you to go through it and think about how much you actually still agree with. How much of those feelings you wrote down you still feel. Chances are, there will be a few parts you don't still totally agree with. And what I want you to do is delete them. Then, leave it another couple of days. Now, finally, I want you to go through the letter again, but this time, critique it as much as you possibly can. Your goal here is to be objective, separate yourself, and make the best possible case for the other person that you can. Try and understand the other person's side, using logic and reason. Correct yourself where you think you've been unfair, where things are too much. Think of legitimate things that you might be doing wrong. If you've done this properly, what you should be left with is a letter that describes how you feel in a fair way, that's also got reasonable consideration for other people, and consideration to what extent you might be at fault. Okay, slight scenery change because my camera died again, and I'm not wearing any clothes because I went swimming. I'm not gonna let a camera battery tell me what to do, how to live my life, okay? So we'll just continue like this. Great, so you've got this letter, but what do you do with it? Well, this is the hard part. You now need to use this letter you've written to communicate with the person it's for in a productive, healthy way. You want to find a solution. And now, the problem is, you're probably in this situation because you virtually never assert how you feel. So if you now, out of the blue, go up to this person and say, hey, Vanessa, here's 8 paragraphs of reasons you're making me unhappy, okay? That's probably not going to go very well. So what you want to do is look through this letter you've written, analyze the way you feel and break it down into smaller points, smaller, more specific problems that you can address on their own. And over a period of time, you're going to take these small points and talk about them with this person in a way that is productive. So here's how you do that. Obviously, this varies with how big the problem is. Telling someone that you don't like the way they pick their nose is going to be a bit easier than telling someone you've faked orgasms for the last 15 years. But in general, a good rule is when you try and bring up a problem with someone who you want to have a good relationship with, you want to avoid it being accusatory. You don't just simply say, oh hey, you're doing this, I dislike it, stop now. Because that's quite likely to trigger an angry reactionary response. If you're in a situation with another person that you're not happy with, 99% of the time, the way you feel isn't completely reasonable, and the way they feel about it also isn't completely reasonable. So when you bring up the problem, your goal is to talk about it and find a solution, find what the truth is, which will be somewhere in the middle. You want to start with explaining how you feel. When I need to talk to my girlfriend about something I'm unhappy with, generally I'll find a reasonable time to bring it up, and I'll just tell her that something's been bugging me and I'd like to talk about it. I'll explain how I feel, I'll ask what she thinks, and then we'll talk about it and come to a solution. Now, it depends what the problem is, but do not always expect things to go exactly the way you plan them to. If you've been resentful about something for a long time, you probably haven't talked about it much with anyone else. And so you've got a really narrow view on the problem, which means that when you bring this up with the person involved, it's very likely you're going to learn some new things that change the way you think. This can be a really hard habit to build up. And if you have a deep ingrained fear of conflict, it can be really difficult to address. This is something that I personally have really had to work on, but I've also learned that when you develop the skill of asserting yourself in relationships in a way that's calm, productive, and solution-focused, for me, it's been slightly fucking mind-blowing at how much difference it makes. Because you realize you have the ability to effectively decide what relationships you want in your life. I now only let people treat me pretty close to how I want to be treated, or at least to what I think is fair. But one thing you will find is that not everyone will be able to compromise with you in a way that you're both happy with. And so as you slowly get into the habit of standing up for yourself and being better at expressing the way you feel, you're also going to have to become comfortable with letting go of people who aren't right for you. And if you don't feel like a useful, competent, confident man, you're going to struggle cutting people off. You'll think, well, I'm unhappy in this relationship, but I'll probably really struggle to find another one. And if you think that's something that you could work on, then watch this video where I teach you exactly how to sort your shit out and become a useful, competent, attractive man.